Blessed love, give thanks for the life giver and the keeper of life, Kadamawe. Haile Selassie first. Give thanks for your presence with us once again. You're definitely sitting with us in the den, in the nest, in the tiger's nest. And I know for sure, even for those who are subscribers to the Shock of the Hour, I did send out a word sound that you would have to give us a few days because of a specific project that we are doing. But lo and behold, the elements said that myself and Ras Icern had to combine for these few moments here to bring a word sound to the people. So obviously you see what it is. Myself, the good brother Ras Icern is with us once again. Give thanks, Honorable, for being in the nest with us, talking about the tiger's nest. And the good brother is going to give us a blessed presentation this afternoon, because it's afternoon right now. Today is actually the 21st day of January. And as we refer to history, as you would know, last night or previous night was a blood moon, the eclipse. I didn't see it really where we were. You wouldn't really see it, but it took place supposedly. I haven't even watched it on the internet or anything, but it happened according to history and time and space. And the day prior to that was Timkat in Ethiopia, which represents the baptism of Christ. Timkat, that's in Ethiopia. And even today is actually the day when Haile Selassie was given the title Defender of the Faith, which is 1965, when the head of the Eastern Bloc Orthodox churches came together, going over the whole aspect of the divinity of Christ and other issues. And the emperor was given the title Defender of the Faith on the 21st day of January. And he accepted it, according to the history, on the 23rd day of January, and that's 1965. So it's a mystical time, a mystical day even right now. And as I said, we are going to be delving into some important topics. And the previous time the good brother was with us, we were speaking on the whole aspect of the Bible and of course some history as it relates to such. Now we will be continuing that discussion today, but Brother Icern will be making a presentation to you. I'll be just sitting, listening, observing and absorbing while I'll be taking some notes, and then afterwards, we will converse and get into some deeper reasoning. So again, Ras Icern with us in Antigua. He wouldn't be considered an elder, but he is an elder. The last time I said he was one of my elders, I think he kind of brushed it off or something, but he can say what he wants because he just did an interview with Brother Zugu, Darren Andrew, on Wagwan radio, television, YouTube channel there, Wagwan. Just check it out, Wagwan. Subscribe to Wagwan. And the interview, I must say, it was very timely. There were things that the brother even said in the interview that really went over my head, because the way that I expressed it in the interview, the Naya Bingi itself got a revival in Antigua almost under your watch. And it was quite interesting. I never hear you said that before. It's not near boast about or anything. And when it came out in the interview, I said, okay, that's interesting. You never even, well, you tell it to me, but I never got it in that way. How did I bring it out in the interview with Zugu? So interesting.
Give thanks.
So give thanks again for your presence. Again, blessed love, Ras Icern. You can bless the community, and feel free to just, whenever you're ready, to go straight into your presentation. The floor is yours, the time is yours. I just sitting back and observing, just like the rest of the listeners. So
highly high.
Blessed love.
Well, as always, man have to give thanks to the man still for providing the platform here, providing a platform that man can express these things. Man appreciate that a whole lot. Because as I man point out in the interview, they said the interview that the man referenced just now, at a particular point at the beginning of Iman Chad, Ayman made a silent vow to Ayman self to help these people, as Ayman, me no view it at the time, these Rasta people, Ayman wasn't Rasta then, to help these people defend a cause that Ayman come to see to be an important cause by what Ayman learned from history, coming out of the argument as Ayman state with the young Rasta brethren. And as it were, going forward from them time, the Ayman continue by way of knowledge and continually, pondering a lot, pondering the things that we're dealing with as Rasta, so that whenever we present ourselves, whenever we take a position in respect of doctrine or whatever, it will be a firm position that people cannot shake. People cannot let Rasta look embarrassed and all the rest of it by just springing certain kind of information on them, you see. And so Ayman chat that way. So Ayman life pretty much is that. I mean, like, right now, if you take out that part of Ayman more or less not have no life, except maybe, well, Ayman a play pan for over 30 years, so, Ayman have a pan life, that kind of way. You see, but Ayman really, a lot of energy, mental energy and otherwise, that go into this Rastafari child. And so, to reach the point that man reach now, that man confident enough to come and put up their hand before the world and make certain statement that really quite outrageous to the average person mind, you understand? And then to have the man providing, the man platform for Ayman to do that, you know what I mean? Something that Ayman greatly appreciate, because it's like, well, that's where you do the work for, you know what I mean? To can impart, and so that people can benefit from it, you understand? Ayman, all Ayman really wish for doing a Rasta right now is just get Ayman work done, put it on the table, and Ayman can just ride out into the sunset. Nobody have to say honorable anything. Because Ayman, the work done, I just want to get that done. Just make my contribution, that kind of way. Ayman not rival for no position, accolade, or whatever. You see, Ayman a one the youth that come forward, and for some reason Ayman take a certain responsibility within myself for the influence that Ayman as a Rasta have and the wider community. If Ayman go out there and put up my hand and say, my way is Rasta and my way is the right way, bonfire upon Christian and whoever, and come my way, and then people are going to gravitate to that. People is going to gravitate to that. Then I want to take some responsibility for what I'm giving these people. Because what I give these people, if you know wholesome, if you know good, you can destroy them life. You understand? You can cut them life in one direction that, become a fruitful life for them or whatever. So because of these things, I exercise a certain amount of diligence in terms of how I go about this thing that I do in searching information, pondering, try to understand things in a way that I can help other people to see their way clearly as they come through. I love when people pick me, come Rasta, when children come Rasta, that the way they grow, even though their parent wasn't in agreement with the way they were going to come Rasta, in the end they must feel proud of their child, because their child comes something remarkable. You may not still even like how they carry them beard or whatever, but you have to respect the character that stands before you. These are the kind of things I would like to impart to the generations of youth that will come through Rasta. So I know that when you come Rasta, you get upliftment, you get your self-esteem lift up, you make something of yourself good. I feel good, putting my head on my pillow, knowing that this is the impact. This is the way I am affecting people in that positive. So because of these reasons, I exercise certain amount of diligence in what I do. Now, this presentation really is a follow-up. As I view this really as a follow-up to the other video that me and the priests have done, because it is just really continuing to bring out the same points from the first interview. A lot of people, and understandably by the way, a lot of people was not in agreement with the things that Ayman have to say about the Bible in terms of mythology. When I refer to the Bible as myth, it's mythology. And one of the reasons for this is because there's a very common view to myth. When you say something is a myth, the common understanding is that it's not real, it's fake. And in a normally something that is fake really don't have any value. It's fake. It's not good. It work now. But the thing about it is that myth really is much, much more deeper than that. While you can say of myths, mythical stories like those in the Bible, that they did not literally happen, and to that extent you can say, well, it is myth, it is fictional. You understand? These stories are conveying values and ideas that without them, society wouldn't be what it is today. Mankind themselves wouldn't be who they be today in terms of their civilization and so forth. It is these stories, you see, that were used to convey values, because one of the things we have to bear in mind to even better appreciate the fact that the biblical writings are myths is the fact that long before writing was invented, there was oral history where people speak. You understand? And if you're going to speak certain things, just using theoretical term, the average, in a matter of speaking, child mind that, the intellect not developed yet, will have grave difficulty to understand certain things that you're trying to convey, because principles and so on, like manners and all the rest of it, they have a way that you can reason these things beyond just telling a youth not to go there and they simply not do that. It's a principle, and if you get into reasoning in certain scientific ways, for example, the average mind will not be able to appreciate. So you see, story was the way, because in stories you can use characters and so on. You can tell a story and have a person sit and listen, and they animate the whole thing in their mind and they see a certain picture. And they will understand very quickly what it is you're trying to convey. Which if you reduce that from story to say like a scientific explanation, they'll be totally lost. You understand? So the Bible in great part really come out also out of oral tradition. Hence part of the reason why it is really mythical in nature. You understand? And as I say, a lot of people have difficulty dealing with that because they never heard of this. And just by the way that we were taught, we would think that it is because these persons would have existed why the things that we read from the Bible and we incorporate into our lives that affect our life in such positive ways have that effect. We would think that is because these people actually exist. You see? But it is not necessarily so. It is not so really. And it does not necessarily have to be that way, because you can use stories to convey values and principles that a person can all the same use and apply in their life, and it bear fruit in their life. They find positive in it. I'm so familiar with the story of Burr and Nancy, but hearing other people, for example, that familiar with the story, talk about the story, I get the impression that Burr and Nancy is a kind of story that it convey value. Now, Burr and Nancy was a spider. You understand? But in the story, he was playing, he was being a certain character that could convey certain powerful values that one might deem as powerful as any average value in the Bible. to any generation. You understand? So it shows you that the story doesn't necessarily has to be true to hold very powerful and profound value in your life. You see, it's the people who make the story and the principles and so on that they incorporate into the story. That's what determines the effect that the story will have on your life. So in a matter of really clarify this whole thing over myth and mythology, that's the understanding we need to have. First thing, we need to have a renewed understanding or updated understanding of mythology, what exactly it is. And then we can better appreciate why the story in the Bible would be mythology. Because I believe the most difficult thing for people in accepting this is because of the effect it has on them. It's because the Bible's ability to predict, to speak predictively, so to speak, about certain events, and we actually see it happen. When we see that, we like, wow. You know, you have to respect the powers of the Bible when you see things like that play out. But it is not a mysterious thing if you really understand mythology and what the purpose of them is really. The purpose of myth is in human life. You understand? It would not be difficult. Now, to speak to the Rastafari situation, and I say Rastafari situation because I'm an Rasta, right? And when I'm an as Rasta, put up my hand and say the Bible is mythology, it has implication in people's mind. Because this one Rasta say this. How the Rasta go say this when the Rasta using the same Bible historically as biology for point 2, Haile Selassie being a descendant of King David and King Solomon. How this Rasta go say that, you see? It can become an issue when clearly the traditional teaching is to the contrary. The traditional teaching and view on the scripture is that it is history. As a matter of fact, the Western civilization is built on that book as the basis for human history. That's why they have a story about the first 2 human beings. You understand? So, the issue are pretty much a Rasta issue. Because I'm as a Rastafari, you would come forward, seeing the Bible as history. And then, in recent time now, coming on to deeper knowledge, deeper spiritual / religious knowledge, and getting a better appreciation and understanding of what the scripture really about now. You know, I'm really forced to come out and bring this thing to one's knowledge, because I think it is a matter of spiritual importance. Because I think that if one does not get this kind of appreciation for scripture, it will inhibit one's spiritual growth. You understand? Spiritual reality is specific. You know, you cannot force something that doesn't fit into spiritual reality in there. You cannot make something that apply to the temporal, apply to the spiritual and indefinite. You know, you cannot fit it in. You know, so we have, you know, theological consideration in light of certain things. Now, I have a speech here by His Royal Highness Prince Ermias Haile Selassie. Okay, this speech was delivered in 2010 at the Library of Congress. Okay, and this spirit, the topic, the subject of his delivery was the origin and religious symbolism of the Lion of Judah. Okay, I might like to read this as, in a matter of speaking, supporting evidence to Ayman pronouncement or claim, if one want to use these terms, that the Bible is mythology. I would like to say before reading this though of His Royal Highness Prince Hermas Selassie, right? Maya Selassie, sorry. That he has had experience over the years with the Rastafari community. I happen to think that this presentation was inspired by his experience with the Rastafari community. You understand? He have had experience with the Rastafari community where he would have known that in the community we apply the scripture literally in respect of his grandfather, His Majesty Haile Selassie I, as being God. He would have come across these experiences. I happen to think that this presentation was inspired by these experiences. That caused him to have some concern, because as an Orthodox, a Coptic Orthodox Christian of Ethiopia, and himself of the same lineage, the same Lion of Judah lineage, you understand? He would naturally have intimate information about these things. After all, well, I might think that the man even gestured that when you say that for him, because I did a short thing on the speech as well, and you made mention of the fact that he's kind of running a risk being a member of the same lineage of Judah and himself walk around bearing the prestige of being descendant of the Solomonic lineage. To make a pronouncement like that, he kind of, I mean, it's surprising, it's stunning, because it would seem undermining for his position. But I say now, the fact that he would have done so tells me that there must be of a different understanding in Ethiopia in respect of scriptures and these things. Either or is when you arrive at a certain mature state in your living that you will come to know the truth about these things and then assume that. And I say that to say, well, it might be what he himself has grown into in terms of understanding and awareness, and not necessarily what the general orthodoxy in Ethiopia would have, you know what I mean, presented. Pretty much like I would have said mythology. The general masses in Rastafari say it's history. You understand? So it can be that but I'm going to take it as a guide, because for him to make this statement to the world, being himself of the same lineage of Solomon, walk around and bear the prestige everywhere he goes, this is something to pay serious attention to. This is something to brush off what this brethren would have said as, oh, he doesn't know His Majesty like us the Rastas, because he in a certain vantage point to know things that we the Rasta do not know. You understand? But I'm going to go through this because the brethren stated, you know, very explicit for itself. It kind of self-explanatory. I don't even have to explain much, but just enter right into it. By the way, I'm not doing the whole presentation. I am just doing the part where he give his, what Ayman call, royal admonition concerning how we treat mythical stories. Okay? I'll just read that part, because he have the parts where he actually going to speak into the origin of it, where he referenced from Genesis, when the lion symbol was first referenced and all the rest of it. And even section where he referenced the Rastafari movement as well. But yes, good afternoon, friends, scholars, and distinguished guests. It is my great honor and privilege to be here with you today in the renowned Hebrewic section of the United States Library of Congress, African and Middle Eastern division. To begin with, I will share with you an ancient Ethiopian saying: we must study the past and understand the present to charter a better future for us all. I might just like to say a little bit about this saying, right? Because I'm noting his use of the term study where the past is concerned. Study. Not know of the past, but study the past. Understand your present. You have to understand your present that you can know how to apply the knowledge of the past in your present. And then that will ensure a better future for us all. You understand? Why is he saying studying the past? Because really the foundation stories and history of every nation is really mythology. It is mythology because in that first story they lay out all the values and everything that the nation will be about in those stories. So you study the past to gather these lessons that you can propel yourself into the future with the message from the past being your foundation. I must tell you, to continue, I must tell you that I am not a theologian and make no pretense at being so. Indeed, some, perhaps many of you, already possess extensive knowledge of today's subject, the origin and religious symbolism of the Lion of Judah. Take note at the use of the term symbolism. Take note of that, very important. Consequently, I will initially introduce the subject and hopefully, and with a robust question and answer period, which I anticipate will prove both entertaining and enlightening for all of us. It is with great reverence, here's essentially where the speech begins. It is with great reverence, humility, and some concern I come before you to discuss and explore the topic. My concern springs from the certain and harsh knowledge. Check these words good. Certain. Not my belief, maybe, and so on. Certain. And also harsh knowledge that whenever poetry and magic of myth is interpreted as biography, history, or science, it is frequently mortally wounded. Okay? Let's go to this thing. He basically saying, because the reason why he mentioned poetry, by the way, is because poetry, usually mythical. You understand? Because poetry is like a language in symbols in a sense. You understand? Always carry a certain allegorical meaning. Poetry often have allegorical meaning, particularly the cryptic ones, because them more, utilize symbols rather than straightforward poetry. Okay? So he also put poetry because I think also, one of the other reasons, just thinking about it, that he would use the term poetry is because it is said also that the Psalms in the Bible are poetry. Okay, and they are also used historically by some people as well. So he's saying that whenever poetry and the magic of myth, because he's claiming magic and the part of myth. Remember, we just say myth a far zone and dash that out the window. This brethren say that myths carry magic. And whenever you interpret that as biography, meaning whenever we are going to make claim, for example, based on the mythical stories that people know are biological descendant of people in these mythical stories we're using wrong application. That's what he's saying in actuality. Remember, he is supposed to be descended from character that he himself indirectly admitting to as being mythical characters. And he's saying this, you must not use it as biology. You must not use it as history. Because if you apply certain discipline, history make up of 4 basic ingredients. They just add 1, make 5. People, places, time, events, and they add literature that basically confirm the other 4. Okay? So for example, if there's a passage in the scripture that purport to be history, then naturally you're going to apply these criteria to it to see if it fit, if it measure up. And if it doesn't, then it doesn't qualify as history. You understand? And whenever you do this with the Bible, there is a lot of absurdities that show up when you try to apply these principles or these criteria that make up history to it. You understand? Let me move on. I just needed us to break that down. Science now, would relate to trying to apply reason and logic to understand scripture, to rationalize scripture, to say what is, and so forth. You understand? And the reason why science is not absolute in dealing with scripture is because the entity that we're dealing with in the Creator, he transcends its creation. The Creator, as man conceive and perceive, transcend his creation. And it is only within the creation here, in the realm of time and space, that you have reason and logic. Outside of this realm of time and space, there is no reason and logic. So since you're using mythology to describe that realm that is beyond reason and logic, then your description of that realm cannot be logical or reasonable, because it doesn't come from that realm of reason and logic. It doesn't come out of time and space. It is said that when the ancient people of the Nile Valley thought about the universe, that they conceived of a universe that was so vast that they could not find words to describe, because every word that we're going to use is relative. It is bound by relativity, because within the realm of time and space, relativity rules. You have to have the duality, because that's how experience is created. No good man can be good man except you have the opposite of him in existence, in bad man. That's how it works within our realm. So since you're describing a realm that doesn't have that relativity, that reason and logic, then the description of that aspect of the universe they conceive had to be beyond our normal description of reason and logic, so to speak. You understand? So this is the reason why you will find a lot of the stories have a lot of supernaturality about them. A lot of things just seem to be described in supernatural ways. And the reason why that is so is because they're describing something that's beyond our basic reality. You understand? And that thing that is beyond our basic reality is what we refer to, you understand, as God, or the Creator, or the All, or whatever term that we human beings, various quarters of the human family, would apply to this entity. You understand? So that is the nature of things, and this is the reason why mythology was used because mythology enables you to describe things in ways that is not subjected to the law of relativity, of reason and logic. So you can describe them in supernatural ways. You understand? And that will bring that sense of awe about this creator entity into the human heart that basically humble the human being in respect of this entity. If this entity could just be a normal man that just manifests where man can just come and overthrow and take away power from, then there's nothing magical in the human mind or heart in respect of the creator if that could be all it be. If this man could just be a man that just come and walk the earth and one man can just come and just grab you and nail you up to cross and just dismiss of him just like that, there's nothing magical or awesome about that for humble the human heart, because then just backs up the boy and nail you up. You understand? So this is the reason why the description of the God entity as we bring him in, we human beings bring him into personification, has to bear a certain supernatural aura about itself that make him even above us, the normal person within our own psyche. You see it? So yeah, that was an elaborate, explanation, but all to just help one to understand why this story would have been mythology, and yet still they are not just frivolous. There is a reasoning to this thing. There's an understanding to this mythology thing. You understand? A higher education for better clarity in a mannerization. Highly high, Selassie. So as the brethren move along, he said, whenever we use, well, let me take it from this part. My concern springs from the certain and harsh knowledge that whenever poetry and magic of myth is interpreted as biography, history, or science, it is frequently mortally wounded. The living images become only remote facts of a distant time or sky. You understand? Meaning, we only relate to the myth, to the mythical story. Once we take them as history and all of that, our only relation to them is to like kind of just, okay, something that would have happened, and okay, that's it, something that happened. Of course, they can learn moral from them alone, but they carry no magic of awe about them once you reduce them into being literal and being history. Because the only thing a man can do in the reading and say, oh, back in the time so and just relate to them as facts. You understand? So you say now, the living images of the mythology become only remote facts of a distant time or sky. And hear this now. It's never difficult to demonstrate to science and history that mythology in large part is absurd-like. The reason why mythology is absurd to science and history is because when you apply the discipline of these things to the myths, to the mythical stories, it's absurd in a manner sense. I like, what foolishness is this? This is the reason why I guess people like, some of the scholars and them out in North America that push a lot of the information now revealing that these writings are mythology. Just kind of dismiss it and say, oh, it's just made up stories. Which I man think that, that kind of unfortunate for brush it off as that, because great value is in this thing nonetheless. You understand? But this is the reason why they do that. Just brush it off so. You understand? Because when you try to apply these principles of science and history to it, it really become like absurdities. You understand? These things that are written. Thus, when a civilization begins to reinterpret its mythology in this way, as biography, history, or science, the life goes out of it. Temples Temples become museums or tourist attractions, and the link between the two perspectives is dissolved. So this is what you say. Whenever you start looking for historical value from these mythical stories, you find yourself not being able to extract nothing credible once you apply the criteria for the discipline of history. And once that happens, you carry this mythological story to the masses, and they apply reason and logic and apply the principle of history and these things to it, and they see that this thing is not making any sense, then that will not make churches and temples attractive no more. This is why the brethren say, you know, that whenever a civilization begin to reinterpret its mythology in this way, as biography, history, or science, you understand, the life goes out of it. You see, temples become museum and tourist attraction, and the link between the two perspectives is dissolved. You see, temples now gonna have no more real use when people start to apply history to it, because then the appreciation will be lost, because it's now gonna measure up to these criteria that make up the discipline of history. This is the reason why archaeologists and all kind of people have mountains of information against the historicity of the Bible. You see, because when you try to apply these disciplines, this is what's coming out. You see, Ermias go on to say, in modern times, arguably, such life has even descended on the Holy Bible, both the Old and New Testament, and a great part of the Christian movement. In other words, what you say, this faith, right, has fallen on the Christian Bible, because the Bible has always been interpreted as history, and as time goes on and research goes on, information is coming out more and more to the contrary. You understand? To the point now that a lot of people now kind of get turned off with religion. This is the reason why even people that is behaving religiously and themselves involved with religion or religious practices, they now want to shy away from saying that they are religious and say, I'm spiritual. People tend to shy away from this religion. Religion now want to, you know what I mean, affirm spirituality. And that's because religion getting shaken down in all these different ways. You understand? The late and renowned American mythologist, writer, and lecturer Joseph Campbell has observed that symbols are simply the vehicle of communication, and that they must not be mistaken for the final term. Again, meaning not taken literally, meaning not just as you see, wherever you see before your eye, symbolically, you take it literally and that's it, the final term. The final term, the tenor of that reference. Thus, no matter how attractive or impressive symbols may seem, they remain but convenient means accommodated to the understanding, meaning they're only there to aid you in understanding something. You see it? He go on to say now, and this is important, hence, the personality in a single person, are personalities of God, whether represented in the Trinitarian, dualistic, or Unitarian terms, whether pictorially or verbally, as documented facts or apocalyptic visions, hear this now. No one should attempt to read or interpret them as the final thing. Meaning, you must not be interpreting the mythology literally as history and make biography out of the whole thing and so. He go on to say, listen this is important because he's revealing something now by referencing theologians. Hear this. He's saying here now, the abiding challenge of the theologian is to keep the symbol translucid so that it may not block out the very light that it's supposed to convey. Now go back over this thing here. Let's take note of something here. The abiding challenge of the theologian is to keep the symbol translucent. So what I'm telling you now is that it is theologians that design these stories. Right? And they say that the challenge for them is so when they write the story, they keep it translucent, meaning not pellucid. And the reason why it must not be pellucid, because it must be able to maintain that certain air of mystery to it. That the human being has to remain in awe of this creator entity. This is the reason why the theologian has to make the symbols, because that's all the story is, symbols. All the titles and everything are symbols. But he have to make these symbols translucid, mysterious, mystic in a kind of way, so that the human being will remain forever in awe of this entity that is just too awesome and too big for us human beings to contain in our Vasura. You see it? I man move forward. For then alone do we know God, writes St. Thomas Aquinas, when we believe that he has thought about all that man possibly think about. Check this out. Let me read this again. For then alone do we know God, writes St. Thomas Aquinas, when we believe that he has thought about all that man can possibly think. So you see, it's we who have to create in our mind a certain concept of God. It's we who have to have a concept of him. This statement here really just bring to light, bring to mind, at least to me, the African retention, that says, God create man, and then man create God. The breakdown of that is this. Well, God the creator, as we put it, create the whole universe and everything therein, including I and I, human being. And then we human being create God conceptually. We create him by a concept that we hold of him. Hear what the brother say, yeah? For then alone do we know God, writes St. Thomas Aquinas. We know God, here say, St. Thomas say, when we believe, not know. When we believe, meaning when we hold a concept in ourselves, that he has thought about all that we human beings can possibly think about. You see it? Thus, as we go on, mistaking a symbolic vehicle for its tenor can lead to spilling not only valueless ink, but also valueless blood. This statement is very serious. Here say, thus, when we mistake the symbolic vehicle, which scriptures really are, the things in the scripture almost is like symbolic. You understand? They're like symbolic because they're conveying something allegorically. There's a deeper meaning to everything in the scripture than what we see play out in the story on the surface. You understand? There is something deeper. You understand? So in actuality, the stories themselves are as symbols, and the characters, they are all symbols. You understand? They are not that which they seek to describe. You see? It's like saying, man of God. You check what me say? No, okay, well, that probably would not be a good analogy, and me think true. Let me just give you a better analogy. It's like you come down the road and you see the car that I drive. Usually I drive a particular car. And you come down the road and you see the car. The car are that which transport me and everything, but it is not really me. You see it? Similarly, check like the body. This is probably even more powerful example. There is a spirit that dwells in everybody. Right? When we see the physical man, we refer to him by a certain name. You understand? But it is not the flesh that is the man really and truly. You understand? Although we refer to the flesh as the man, it is not really the flesh that is the man, but the spirit that inside of the flesh. And this proves itself out when you go to a funeral. Because you will hear the preacher or whoever performed the ceremony stand up and say, here lies the body of whoever. So that don't draw the separation. Because if this is the body of whoever, then I can reasonably ask, okay, so where is he then? If his body is here, like my car is downstairs, then where is he? Because my car is downstairs, but I'm upstairs, you know, doing this video. So if they're saying that here lies the body of John Tom, for example, we say, Irie, so this is John Paul body. So where John Paul now? You understand? And that they show you clearly. You understand? That the body itself now is really a symbol of the spirit in a sense that inhabit the body. It is not really the body. So this is what they're saying. These stories, the stories and them are like symbols. They're representing something, but they are not that thing. When you hear individual in the stories described as being God, he's symbolizing a deeper ideal. He is not the ideal. Because he is limited just to his single person and his own personal set of characters. You understand? And he does not project all the characters that are of the Creator, all that play out across billions of human beings. Because technically speaking, not technically, in actuality, if you talk from a firm theological standpoint, every personality on the planet really is a representation of the Creator. It's a personal representation. So all of the differences, the unique differences that each character have from one to the other, make up the total characteristics that one can say of the Creator, because he represented by all of these life forms, all the life forms. You understand? So this is what the brethren say. Do not mistake, when we mistake the symbol for the vehicle, they are the symbolic vehicle. When we mistake the symbolic vehicle for the tenure, the person who in the vehicle, so to speak, you understand? It can lead to not only valueless ink, meaning we write all these things and so many scriptures and scriptures and scriptures. When we go and interpret them incorrectly, it's like valueless ink, as the brethren say. It can lead to spilling valueless ink, meaning all the writing that has been done with sacred writing, and also valueless blood, because a lot of people get killed over religious wars and all these things. You see what I say? So this is what taking these mythological stories literally can lead to. And we don't have to go far to see the evidence of this. Just look up in the Middle East there with Palestine and Israel. Just look at it. Look at all the war and then that waged against Iraq and so on since Saddam time and them something there. You see it? Right there, all the wars and them broke out over things that are rooted in mythological history. People claim disrespect and all kind of something that span thousands of years go back into the past. And followers every generation will come and carry the fervor for defend and strap themselves down with bomb and all kind of thing. And spill valueless blood. The brethren say. Closing 2 sentences now for round off this section, because just this section I'm really emphasizing on. Right? He say to bring the images back to life, one must seek not interesting application to modern affairs, but illuminating hints from the inspired past. When these are found, vast areas of the half-dead iconography display again their enduring and permanent human meaning. So when you say we have to keep mythology within its own interpretational frame, if you like, you understand? Do not reduce it to history or biography. This is Haile Selassie grandson saying this. Right now, this brethren, he all about advocating for the restoration of the throne. He very likely, if this for happen, let's say in the next 5 years, that he would be the one sitting as the emperor, if this was to happen. So when you consider this, and he is walking the earth bearing the prestige of being descended from the Solomonic line, and he's telling you that you are not to interpret these mythical stories as history or biography, then that is important. This is something that one's supposed to pay serious attention to. There's great need right now within the community for deeper spiritual / religious knowledge. Great need for it. I really have to sit down and have discussion and really decide, because there's an important difference between, well, you know what, let me go to a speech of His Majesty to make this point. Sorry. His Majesty have a speech that often we use that speech to show our concurrence with the idea that the way to go in this time is spiritual rather than religious, taking to religiosity as opposed to being spiritual in our orientation. The speech go, we in Africa today are in bondage, Africa are in bondage today because we approach spirituality through religion given to us by conquerors, by invaders and conquerors. Then His Majesty go on to make the comparison between what religion is and what spirituality is. As I say, usually when we reference this speech, we use this speech to show our concurrence with what His Majesty was saying about spirituality is the way, natural way of life and everything. But we totally miss what that excerpt was about. that excerpt was really about, and it is captured in the first sentence. It is really about our approach to spirituality. Africa is in bondage today because we approach spirituality from religion given to us by invaders and conquerors. Let's ask this question. Who are the invaders and conquerors in Africa? Who are these people? What are the two religions that these invaders and conquerors bring? One would find that the answer to this is Christianity and Islam and Mohammedanism. That's the answer to the two of them. So if His Majesty making a statement so that we approach spirituality to religion given by these entity, and that a part of the reason for our bondage. And by the way, the bondage His Majesty you're talking about wasn't necessarily physical bondage. Because at the time of the speech, considerable amount of African country was already independent. I'm going to remember off the top the date of the speech. It was somewhere in the 60s. But I don't remember exactly which one of them here in the 60s. You see it? So he's talking about a certain spiritual bondage. You see it? So it is our approach to spirituality that we have to pay some serious attention to within the Rastafari community today. If Prince Ermias is a Christian, a Coptic Christian Orthodox, and he is saying that the stories in the Bible are mythology pretty much, and they are not to be interpreted as history, that also is a bird's eye view for us out here who know of a different Christian understanding into how the Orthodox Christians and them view and interpret scripture. Because by his, it would seem that they are aware that it is mythology and they use it as such. So that's something for we to think about as well. You see it? So, yeah, that is my presentation for now. I know that the priests have a couple of questions and things that you'd want to bring into focus. So, I might just turn it back over to the priest for now.
Yes, my Lord.
Highly
Selassie.
Yes, I.
Rastafari. Give thanks, for even the listeners and those that will be commenting, and depending on how this video goes up, might go up in premiere style. So you ones might be literally chatting while the video is premiered, depending on how it is put up. More than likely, I'll put it up premiere style. That's something brand new that YouTube has brought forward. The video you did with Zephaniah Zugo, that went to premiere style, so ones were commenting as it was premiering, in the chat room.
Wow, we didn't even know that it's been commented.
Yeah, live and direct. The chat is still next to the video. If you go and watch it, you see the chat. Ras Kwame, enough respect to the man Ras Kwame and some other ones. Yeah, but give thanks, they give thanks for the presentation. I mean, straight off presentation, straight to the point, and in connection to the speech, as I said, that I did quite a different presentation on that speech. I think I actually played some of it too. I didn't read it. I have it in word for word.
I have a copy for the man too as well, in the written form.
Right.
Because trust me, it appeals differently when you read it than listening it. It blew me away when I got it on paper, Jed, that these are things the man say. And viewers and listeners, right? This is just one page, right? This is just one page, and about to this point, and the second page that I just read. This thing is about 10 or so pages, where you go through the history. You go through reference in the Bible from where Lion of Judah was first introduced. He even show other cultures that use the lion symbol, the lion as a symbol of imperial authority and things of the sort. So he give a kind of general history and lion as a symbol of authority. But at the same time, he reduce it down now to the focus of the Bible as he used in the Bible and Ethiopia adaptation to it also in the Bible.
Yeah.
You check what me say? Yeah. They have some other works that ones can follow. Because there's another grandson for His Majesty. That I might find I have some important story that really show you the human side of His Majesty a lot. Important for I and I grasp that. The brethren down in St. Lucia, they have a brethren down in St. Lucia also who is very anti the Bible. He go Rastafari by Kemetic spiritual approach. He's Rastafari, but his approach to spirituality is the African Kemetic Nile Valley approach to spirituality. My brethren, I man shout you up, I'm sure you can see this thing same way. My brethren down there in Lucia called Heru Ma'at. You see him? And he make a very important point in terms of us applying titles like omnipotent, omnipresent, and omniscient to His Majesty. The brethren interestingly say that if we are going to interpret the way, if we are going to tell people that yes, His Majesty literally are these things, that we really put His Majesty good works to be discredited. And even saying this, I know a lot of the ones that go listen this, go say, how would that be? But the brethren make a good point. Because part of the reason why we can say Selassie is one of the greatest human beings, if not outright the greatest human being in the 21st century, that kind of way, is because we compare his works as man with other man.
If I can come in there.
Yes,
but no, even though you say
yes,
directly connected to everything you just went through.
Respect.
But I'm not go that far just yet.
Okay, respect.
We want to deal with this academically, and we still have more time in the future, and we can build it properly. Because what you just covered, I don't want to lose the essence. It's directly connected to what I just said.
True.
That.
Yes.
Trust me, I know that.
I'm with you.
But I'll just stay in that realm there for a moment. Because even when I did the video on that, one of the comments that was asked is that, because obviously, okay, you read the speech or you listen to the speech. And it wasn't the first time I listened to the speech I got it. Maybe I was just checking the vibes and listening to the Prince. But after really grasping it, I said, well, wait, this man says something different. It is obvious to any listening ear that the Prince, even if you think that may be his own opinion, but it's obvious that the Prince was looking, highlighting the whole aspect, as you just clearly said, of mythology being very dangerous when you try to convert it into history. He utilized science, the term science, because when you use science now, you're going into chemistry and physics, So basically, sight and smell and touch and taste. That's how deep I gather what the man is saying. Temples becoming museums. I mean, that's some heavy home run hits. And I kind of highlighted that when I did. Yeah, there was some good poetry, even with the poetry thing you spoke of, because allegory in many forms is poetry. You touch a lot of things, You touch a lot of things. But let me just ask for the moment. I don't want to get into too much talking. Let me just ask. One of the questions someone put to me personally concerning that speech, I guess they were concerned from their perspective. They did not see Prince Hermes directly highlighting his lineage as being mythology interpretation. Now, how I want to put this to you, this could be a little, not brain teaser now. We got to play with this a little,
Yeah.
Just give me a little time. I recently did a program, right, on Psalms 104 and the hymn to Akhenaten.
Oh, yeah, I see that.
One of my strong concerns in this now is that, Enough man say the name come from concern, do you know? I don't know if it's true. I say, okay. Well,
Plasticize it.
Well, you have the concern, as they say. I mean, you highlight the term concern a couple times when you read it. And you said that before we started, that Ermias had a concern. And you see yourself in him. So I just kind of fishing that one day out. So I'm saying now that with His Imperial Majesty, so to what I was saying, just had a little intermission for those who picked that up there a moment ago. And so I was just bringing to the reality the whole aspect of the lineage of the emperor, and obviously the lineage of the Prince Ermias. Now this is interesting to me. It is obvious, I know once I heard I had made mention of King Ori. We put that on a video that was on our channel as well when you spoke at the coronation service there. All right, outside of Ori, it is obvious that Haile Selassie and Prince Ermias, let's stick with the prince so we don't make it sound like it's just that we're talking of a specific lineage. They obviously must have a lineage. You have a lineage, I have a lineage. Every single individual have some kind of blood lineage, fair enough. And the whole aspect of this throne, as you said, the young prince is around the world, well, the prince is around the world advocating for the restoration of the throne. I don't know how strongly he uses this point, but I would assume one of the points he used is the lineage of the Solomon, because that's what the throne is. It's the Solomonic throne. I mean, he got to know how he plays
that. That's the legal title.
All right, fair enough. Yeah. Okay, because that's the game.
Yeah.
If you want
and the nation you established.
Fair enough. Yeah. No, what I'm saying, of course, as Rastafari, many would say there's a nice interview that the king did in America, man, when this young girl asked him, "Do you know how far your lineage went back to?" I could put it up, you know. Do you know how far your lineage went back to? And His Majesty said, "We are descendants of Solomon." Now, when I heard that, I said to myself, okay, she asked him, you know, do you know how far? Now, remember, Solomon have a daddy, you know. And Solomon daddy have a daddy, but he didn't say we're descendant of David. He didn't say he's descendant of Jesse. He said we're descendant of Solomon. Because I honestly believe the Solomon title is a very prestige title within the world of understanding, more than the Davidic, you know. Solomon title. Now, my point is, Psalms 104 and the hymn to Akhenaten, the program I did, as I said you saw, I think even without an opinion, saying I have no opinion, I don't think it's undeniable that the two of them is the same thing. That's half the bat. Whether you feel, because somebody posts under one of that and say that the pagans, I just saw the post about 2 days ago, the pagans are something, manipulate the scripture and invent their own things. Okay. Yeah, I laughed the same way. I said, oh my, I said, boy, this is, those kind of things just touch me. Honestly, kind of hurt me when you see somebody close their eyes to say, no, I don't want to see that, and just run into the fire. It hurt me. I tell the man the truth. Let me tell the man that it just kind of touched me. People even accuse me of that, but I try my best to analyze things. That's why we're here sitting down talking. So I'm saying,
and you are always willing for reason.
Akhenaten have a manuscript that older than David's Psalm. I don't mean David's Psalms. Okay, you would bring your research and say, boss, David's Psalms really no older than 500 years. Okay. According to the religious world, David's Psalm have 2,000 plus years on it. Okay. But yet still, even in their record, it's not as old as Akhenaten's literal hymn that has been discovered, that even have dates on it. Outside of carbon dating, them things have their dates where you can interpret and say, well, what this here at 1353 is the time frame for Akhenaten.
Wow.
Okay, so I'm saying the two of them have the same writings, the exact same writings. Akhenaten is said to be the father of Tutankhamun. Now, Haile Selassie say in his own autobiography that when they opened the tomb of Tutankhamun, he was one of the first visitors. He didn't say that, I believe he's one of the first, if not the first, the very first leader, international leader that visited that tomb. I honestly believe so. But he was one of the first that visited the tomb of Tutankhamun. And not from the king, but I've read outside of the king, other man in reasoning, saying that there were certain artifacts in the tomb of Tutankhamun that could not be removed until the emperor came. I wouldn't doubt that from how I see the diplomatic world, especially aristocrats, deal with the emperor in ceremony. I wouldn't doubt them kind of things. I see enough to know that the emperor get a certain position when it comes to these aristocratic ceremonies. It's obvious. Me, you
Exceptional.
Go to exceptional.
Yeah.
Now,
That's true.
I don't really push in the conscious world. There's this theory that Akhenaten could be Moses, because Psalms 104 could be, I think that may be a Moses psalm. It could be Moses or David. Some people say he's David, because I do not really ascribe to none of those two things. I understand where they come to that, I understand, but I personally, I don't put that on it. But I'm saying this, if Akhenaten, Tutankhamun, you saw me make a link with Tutankhamun and Haile Selassie, which I still can hold that concept. There's this spiritual link between Haile Selassie, Tutankhamun, and other people too, that you can make the link and put date, time, and other things together and say, hey, there's this one spirit moving through all them people here, I'm just saying, if these people here, which are credible people, nobody debating over if they exist, and all of these, it's factual that Akhenaten, Tutankhamun, hear their records, look their remains, all of that, we have that clear. David, a person believing David, but yet still people debating that. People are arguing that, people say, look, the facts are not there, rah, rah, rah. But they both have similar writings. And yet still, the lineage part of it, from David to Haile Selassie and Hermes, according to Hermes himself now, speaking of these things, it leaves you considering. So I'm saying now, if the king have a lineage, which he must have a lineage, he's a human being, Hermes must have a lineage. Where is the lineage? And isn't it, do you think it's wrong to even consider that whole, not just Akhenaten, because maybe if you search deeper, you see these same writings by other kings similar. Because it's, a lot of things you said, I'm giving you the mic now, because you said a lot of things, even when you mentioned the Anansi. Because the Anansi story, in Antigua, we have a phrase where we say, boy, Anansi story you talk. But we use that as if it's something to brush away, like, boy, lie you tell, nothing goes up. You understand? Wherein the Anansi, I have several books on Anansi, maybe I could lend you one.
Yeah.
Where it really shows you all stories belong to Anansi. It is a science to say that we always express, I'm going to leave this last point and then continue. We always express our history, our culture, all of our beliefs, even if you want to say our religion, we always expressed it in song, in dance, in play, even in speech. So even when people say Marcus Garvey never said that a king shall be crowned in Africa, he had a play. I hear people say that, people say Marcus never said that. It was a play that he put on where a king and a queen can be crowned. But trust me, that's just as good. That's an allegorical expression from Marcus Garvey, who I believe is an African scientist. I think Marcus is like they said, African spirit man. Marcus is one of them kind of man. It's obvious. That's the way he speaks. And do me something, not see if I'm gonna come back like mosquito and kill you and rah rah rah. Who talk like that unless they know something that maybe the other person don't know? So when Marcus Garvey put on that play, even if he never said so, to me, if we understood our African tradition, that is as good as saying so.
because we would put it in a play form. We would put it in, that's what allegory is. Allegory and symbolism are not the same thing, you know.
No.
Allegory is symbolism, but symbolism is not necessary allegory.
True. Allegory
is usually in a play form,
True.
in dance form, music form, and we are good at that in ancient Africa. So me even seeing the ancient Christian tradition that Hermes came out from as being of that nature. That's why the Ethiopians sing and dance so much and do all kind of movements. It's expression, a story.
Yeah, beautiful.
But the lineage part now, because we can't lose the lineage.
Yeah.
We can't lose the lineage. What is the lineage of the king? If you ever went into that thought frame where, you know, the line, if he himself is saying, Solomon.
Well, I'm going to tell you see, I'll go back for do, me tell you. When they say this is the age of Aquarius, right? At the age where, you know, a lot of things will be revealed, really, really truthful. You understand? Because the understanding that will come out about things right now, ejed, and you come out among ordinary people and just high people up there. This thing all have to do with when we reach the point in human history where you start creating nation state, where you have to set up constitution, you have to set up an ideology, a philosophy around which your nation are going to coalesce around, so to speak. Things like that. If you have somebody now standing out as a ruler among you from that point, how do you decide that this one get to rule and not any other person when you get construct this up? One of the most effective way of doing it is to create a story about whichever individual you see to have that ability for lead. So you give them a created story, you give them a lineage, you give them that kind of information. You understand? And that become their foundation. In actuality, then it come from the storyline, you know. But in order for you to set up the nation and for create a story for the nation around which all the people, as I say, are basically coalesce around. Everybody go come together under this story about us. Because whatever is said of the nation is about this whole group of people that represent the nation. Just imagine you have one story, you have one legacy, and have nothing to tell these people about themselves into antiquity, and you just organize them for the first time into a nation. Remember, the concept never exists before. Every man be himself and go about his business. Yeah, you like a family and tribe over, so or whatever. Now you want to bring this thing now that you could create one nation now. With one lineage of people that are going to be rulers, and you want the rest of the population for respect these people, for give them the necessary reverence or respect so that they can lead and so on. How would you get that in the head of the masses so that they will comply with this new program? You do so by you creating stories.
Old culture.
You create mythological genealogies and so forth.
But nothing wrong with that.
No. Hold for a minute there, let me go to show you some proof of it. From the 19th century, and nothing long.
No,
just a small extra. From the 15th century, when they create the education system for Europe.
Okay, but yeah, nothing wrong with what you're saying. So the when you create mythology, though, isn't the mythology still attached to some sort of literal aspect? Where I say that now, for example, when we speak about the hieroglyphs of Egypt, then, and we say we just use a personality, Tahuti, and say Tahuti is a principle. Tahuti is not a person. I would agree, Tahuti is a principle, not a person, but yet still, over the ages in time, not by mistake too, maybe, not by mistake, no maybe, by the design of the cosmos, there have been several people that have come with that full personality of Tahuti, unlike another. Maybe some people have some Tahuti and a little Anubis and a little something else inside of them and the eye, you know. But this person man, if there was a human Tahuti, it would have been him. Yeah, boy, he like the man 2,000 years ago, boy. And the one 2,000 years before him, since 2,160 years, does connect astronomically and astrologically too. You know, I tend to look as mythology connected in the physical world in that way. It's not a story, a history. It's a story that continually plays over itself over and over.
Yeah, in human
again.
Manifesting a human behavior and function.
Okay, exactly.
And there are cycles also, by the way, in human behavior. There are certain cycles. If ever you're on your computer again, go and Google like cycles in events.
I can tell you about some of it. Yeah, listening.
You understand? Yeah. A cycle in human behavior, like that. And you would see information that there actually are studies in the areas there. Where they study that at a certain amount of years or whatever, a certain person or some kind of scene like that will come up.
Of course.
You see what I'm saying?
It's only natural.
So, yeah. So this is how them people do this thing also. The individual and then that rise up, Mark, you know, they don't necessarily be a gardener, literally, no. They represent that thing that we recognize as a cycle, and we put value to these different planetary bodies, our zodiac symbol. We put values to them. So when the cycle come on and a certain person come up, what we expect of that person is for him to be heavily endowed with the energy that is of that particular vibes day.
That's it.
It don't necessarily make the personality that carry the energy itself the thing. Because really, God is man, but God is not a man. You can check the mystic of that.
But not just people alone, but even events too.
Of course.
From the allegorical stories.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
So this is why the allegories and them also can be prophetical. And not just prophetical for an event that happened in 2019. One that happened going back, you can trace some go back years and years and years, like one cycle, like the moon cycle. And you can trace some go so too in the future. You can almost predict that, okay, from this point out there in the cycle, when you reach such and such amount of time, such a manifest.
That is it.
And a powerful one will rise up same way. The powerful one will necessarily himself be the God. But it come with an energy that are gonna make he do a work that are gonna impact humanity in a way that another man that born under another one different circumstance, although brilliant, just may not resound like him.
You lead him to the next question, but they look for something.
Yeah, well, concerning the beginning of nations, right?
Yeah, right.
What may happen in Europe as them seek for establish.
Let me show the book last time.
Yeah, but I'm not read nothing from it.
Okay.
As by the way, listeners, this is the same book that Iman referenced in the last video. The campaign, Johannes Rushlin, and the campaign to destroy the Jewish books. You understand? Yeah. Now, what happened at the point where in the 15th century, the Renaissance period coming up, when they were pretty much farming nation state, you may not distinction now between who are France, who are Germany, who are this, who are that, when they're getting into these things. During the 15th century, what they start to do for shore up leadership is that they create genealogical, mythological genealogies of the different royalties and so forth in Europe. So that when them present these people to the masses, a lot of the time, as a matter of fact, a lot of these people lineage does go stem and connect back to the traditional God that the people observe. So that when the people and them regard this person, them associate with the God that they revere and respect so much, and then give a certain respect and reverence to his throne and his leadership, because he represents that body. Let me show you. Here show you this one excerpt from this book with them, man. Because these guys, by the way.
But Solomon and God did.
Yeah, these guys, by the way,
before we get the outside of the history of it. that we take up as the history of Solomon and David, in the mythology of it, Solomon is a God figure.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, even Jeremiah referred to you as a Messiah, and David
Right.
referred to them as
God
Messiahs.
figures,
Yeah.
Well,
Because are the symbol that's attached to divine kingship. Once you're a divine king, you're really functioning in a messianic role because you are the son of God.
You touch upon that very profoundly in the last thing we uploaded.
Right. Now these guys, Johannes Reuchlin, people like Desiderius Erasmus, people like Moses Maimon, all these guys are write what we call Bible now. But in them time, they understand to be sacred literature they put together. Alright? Desiderius Erasmus, all these guys you refer to them as humanists. But it's not because they're humane and love human beings. Humanist really is another way of saying the intellectuals and academics of those times. The people in them who come into learning in Europe. You understand? Because traditionally, it's only royalties and certain rich people that knew how to read and so on, because they could have paid tutors to teach them children and themselves how to read. And that enabled them to exercise their authority over the unread masses, the masses that can't read, then are illiterate. You understand? So what happened now, you have a brethren called Manuel Chrysolorus, a descendants of the ancient Egyptian and them, who came over from over Constantinople, over into Florence, Italy, in 1394, I think. And he started teaching the Italians and the Europeans and them at the time the rudiments. He created a rudiment for teaching the Greek language, and he started teaching them that rudiment from those rudiments. You understand? It is that teaching of the rudiments that begin the second Renaissance and push for knowledge and enlightenment. So what happened as these individuals like Johannes Reuchlin and so on came into knowledge? You understand? These guys were the ones who were starting to shape history when they create, because the subject of history, people, is not something that always existed. The subject of history started during the 15th century and they created education curriculum for Europe, for teaching masses of Europe, for give them education. That's when the subject of history was created. It wasn't always there. You understand? So, in writing a history...
But there was always record keeping. There was always...
Yeah, but you have to imagine, if there are 4 criteria that make up history.
Okay, man, understand that. Okay,
then if you keep record, you'd have to keep record for answer to all these. There were no record collected with history in mind, so that then we cover these principles automatically.
You
check what you say? There really weren't none. So what happened in the 15th century, for example, when they created the subject of history, is that they mythologically, probably with some evidence where they can gather from anthropological findings and other stuff like that, they put mythological stories together to represent a past, a history of the past, for lay a foundation for human being, for your psychology, for go forward. You have our foundation. You understand where I come from? So that's how the man do this thing. So you're talking about in the 15th century, and then a man will write history and tell you about what happened in 5,000-6,000 BC. And here give elaborate story, almost can break them down chronologically, bring it to your modern time. Who was keeping the record for this guy to put this together? For cover these criteria? You see what I say?
Yeah, of course.
So, what then do now, and this is going to be an example of what these humanists used to do. Because this is showing how they create genealogy for the royal families and them of some of these royalties. 2 of them then get reference here in Europe, right? Honestly, my apology, people. I man really need to go and search for the name for pinpoint exactly what country these two individuals come from. You understand? I believe one of them are Greek, but we'll see now. It says here now, creating mythic genealogies that stretched back to antiquity was fashionable during Rushlin's lifetime, which are you talk about the 15 plus. 1450 coming up into the 1500s, up into them time, a Rushlin time. And them tell you, yeah, creating mythic genealogy that stretched back to antiquity was fashionable during Rushlin's lifetime, largely through the efforts of Emperor Maximilian I. The Habsburg dynasty traced its lineage directly back to, you ever see this word before? Aeneas. I don't believe this is some kind of Greek god. But it's saying here, yeah, largely through the efforts of Emperor Maximilian I. The Habsburg.
The Trojan hero, yeah.
Yeah. The Habsburg's dynasty, which is the dynasty for Maximilian, right? Traced its lineage directly back to Aeneas, the Trojan hero.
Right, yeah, man.
Who, in the Imperial Roman version of the same story, same Trojan story, he ended his wanderings in Italy, where his descendants established the great civilization. You see? And this here tell you that in Rushlin's and them lifetime, it was fashionable for them to create mythic genealogy for the Israel family. So when we read in the history about Emperor Maximilian I, this is his genealogy. For his genealogy say that for his bloodline lead he back to the god, the Greek god Aeneas, the Trojan hero. One person that never exists. But this is how the foundation of their history is laid. And nobody really have to try to take it literal. It is just there as a point of reference like. Nobody have to go dig and find out and test your blood and everything. Because you know not to do with the blood. You just have to do with establishing an authority that will rule and lead the people. And for have a set of values that this person will have to subscribe to. This is the reason why all of them have one religion. Because the religion now inform their sense of value. So that they can go forward. For continue again, Rushlin would do something similar for Frederick the Wise of Saxony, creating a genealogy for the elector's family that extended back to Homeric Greek. You're talking back into 5th, 6th century or later. He created one genealogy for Frederick the Wise of Saxony. We have to find out who Frederick the Wise of Saxony is, what country that. But he created the genealogy for this guy. You understand? That extend this mania lineage back into the time of Homer, the great philosopher of Egypt, of Greece. You understand? Then he go on for say this, yeah, interesting, listen this one, yeah. Because this one you have to sink in for people that love vouch for their long time history stuff. You say, you know, Renaissance humanists derive pleasure from this kind of ornamentation of these individuals. Here you know, this was their great saying. Contemporary culture shines brighter when reflected in the mirror of antiquity. Meaning, if me say, for example, that Kidemi history span back to 1950, for argument's sake, 1950, the other day, down there. Say you have a glorious history for 1950. People say, wow, 1950, that's a good time, you know. You see it? But you see, if I must start talk about, he come from a lineage, from BC time, come right down to now, it's like within the mind of the human being. He creates one kind of fantasy and wonderment and mystique around the character. Because of the this is why when they do storytelling, they love to say long time ago, in a place where long upon a time, they always draw it far away, not just around the corner, far away, because it creates a kind of mystique in the mind of the human being when you hear things from antiquity. So this is why these humanists, hear what I say, let me read it back for you people. Contemporary culture, meaning if you take one culture that exists now, right? And then you could tell a story about the culture, but you date the culture that just started just yesterday. But you write one story about it and date it into antiquity. It shines brighter, meaning it have more appeal to the people that are going to read about it. Contemporary culture shine brighter when reflected in the mirror of antiquity.
So let me ask. So in I think Saxons dealing with Germany, you know.
Same.
Yeah. But okay, so even these people here now, Frederick and the other fella there, they obviously have a lineage too.
Of course, but the real biological.
Not what they're talking about. They obviously have some, maybe in their world, their real lineage is not of any value. They said, Allah set up something and we come from the gods. Are you saying, or do you believe, let me use the term believe, this was the same thing done in the case of the lineage of Hermes, which means German.
I believe so. I believe so.
But for sure, he would have I would use the term, a credible lineage outside of what you think has been given to it. I would assume he have a credible lineage.
Yeah, but the lineage now have nothing to do with anything. The human potential.
So where the Ori come in, when you mention that?
Ori is a mythical figure too.
Oh, okay. All right.
Osiris is a mythical figure too on these guys. It don't really matter, really much. But I tell you, they have a Christian guy, when I man had the radio program for a short while, I man around do some on the metaphysical Bible dictionary, so I'm going to search in the YouTube and I have a Christian guy that come up. He come up in a Christian life where he never know about metaphysical Bible dictionary. And then he find the metaphysical Bible dictionary. And he's so excited by the understanding that you get the metaphysical Bible dictionary that he decide to do a presentation. And you know what you say in the presentation? The man a boast and throw up his hand in the air like he rejoice now. Right now, here he say, who cares if Moses ever existed? Who cares if Solomon and David? Who cares? You know why? Because it really doesn't matter. And who they exist, you try to prove, are the value that convey from their story that you try to learn from and apply in your life, and that value they it resound in a human life period. Because universal principles are involved. This is why people find it difficult for accept this story about mythology, for accept this thing about mythology in the Bible, because these lessons resound so much and so real every day in their life that they cannot believe that the characters and so on never really exist. It's just difficult based on how we are training in these parts, how are we trained for view things and think about things religiously and so on. You see how I say?
I agree that, of course, the value you want.
I think so. Let me say this quickly before you leave me. Because you see, Emperor Theodore, he in particular, based on our research, I have strong feeling for believe that he was set up. He was actually given a story about himself. You understand? He may be a youth that have talent, he may have ability, and then realize that he have influence by the way he may move. So what then do now, then single you out and make he out for be the leader, giving you a history, giving you a lineage, tell you something about himself that make he believe that he is destiny. He the one that meant for come and do almost like a messianic work, that kind of way. Our information now getting the research so far, I lean our way into that direction where he's concerned. The British have a lot to do with that. A lot to do with setting up that scene with Theodore. But You know, we'll see, because so far,
Which brought him to become the emperor of Ethiopia.
yeah.
Okay.
You see what they do? They set up dynasties and lineage. Think about it well. Okay, you may have two human beings come.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, according to the Ethiopian history, Theodore was an outsider too.
Outsider from?
The lineage that he actually saw himself, his name was Ras Icern, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Wasn't it a situation where he got a vision of a prophecy?
About himself.
A great man named Theodore shall come.
Right.
And then he put his name, but he wasn't, when I say outsider, he wasn't who people were looking to take the throne then.
Right.
And then he come and wrestle his way. Okay.
But how you think?
So then what about before him? Them history of emperors before he. How that they go?
Who knows?
No.
Who really knows? But hear this. As you're talking about Theodore, the same story that you relate, that is the story that was fed to Theodore from he was a boy about himself and his destiny as a king. He think that he may be the Messiah now.
Yeah, because
He may have an
that's
impression.
the prophecy of Theodore.
Right, he may have an impression about himself that means greater than what actually was. Who you think he this prophecy and all these stories?
I'll have to really do next
Yeah.
part to this, because we got to do next level there.
Kwame, I do some
That
close.
need a next hour and a half.
Yeah, Kwame, you do some
Yeah.
close works on that particular matter. That particular one.
Because what you put in here now, I mean, although we touched it already, you know, but it real, because Theodore just, I would say just.
Yeah, in a very long ago.
You have Menelik II, Johannes, Theodore, and then prior to Theodore, you have a barge of Ethiopian history that can align with the history of the popes.
Lalibela, was Lalibela from the Davidic line?
No, this the Zagwe dynasty, which was now what was it? Was a big word they used for that? Interloper. He from the Aaronic Levi tribe, unlike the Judic tribe now.
I saw them break it down.
Right.
Oh,
But his timing was like around 1157,
yeah.
1212, as an Ethiopian king.
Yeah, but let me tell you, them temples that them are building are built for Christianity now. You see? Them temples them build for.
But he built them.
Yeah, them build them. 11 of them representing the 11 king of the dynasty.
So that means around that time, there was a king of Ethiopia then.
Yeah, but then again, hear this you know. What Ethiopia constituted border, in terms of border at these times.
Was not that of them time. No, for sure.
Listen, you had a defined nation. Me take history as something that kind of deceptive.
Me get you, man. Me follow
Because you can hear about Ethiopia, you go up on your map and you see clearly this is Ethiopia.
Story done.
But then you read stories now, I carry you far back. I tell you about this man was emperor of Ethiopia. Your mind automatically now see the man may emperor over the same landmass here. And I know that he probably may only emperor over 1/10, maybe the whole landmass that we see today, if not smaller. But we would know. Because the history not written the history almost written in a way that for your mind to fill in the blank and to come to a certain conclusion that not necessarily correct.
But king out time on
Yeah,
us.
yes, I.
Out time on us. Yeah.
And the time about the same as the last video. Rastafari.
Okay. But obviously, we have so with as far as the Bible though, even in sealing up, you made mention of a lot of ones kind of just throw the Bible away. You would not advise that. You see value in the Bible. Okay, fair enough. There's value in the Bible. Maybe you could get value if you read a Shakespeare book too. But what I'm saying with some people are
you can get it elsewhere. But
would you say that the Bible is a valuable book for black people? Just say black people straight out.
what are we using the Bible for? Would be the first question that come to my mind. Why we would need to hold on to it? Why it would have to be so valuable and permanent in our life? What are we looking for it for? What I understand us to be dealing with the Bible for mainly It's for spiritual guidance. It's to show us a way to the Creator, that kind of a way. And what we are learning now from the prevalence of knowledge that exists right now is that the Bible is not the only way to a spiritual experience or realization. We are learning now that while we were taught from traditional Christianity to look at even voodoo as an African culture and Orisha and these things as some kind of pagan practice, we are learning now that you cannot see a Bible ever in your life, go through this system, and you develop the same profound principle and sense of awareness and harmony in yourself, the same that this book would deliver. So does that say that the Bible like indispensable? I would say no. But does it mean because well indispensable we dispense of it? I would say not necessarily, because our exist still in a world that dominated by the Western worldview, and the Bible is fundamental to the value system of the Western worldview. If Rasta, for example, in my opinion, with all that I come to learn, if Rasta did not evolve along the line of Judaism, meaning associating himself with the Bible way of defining his majesty, I believe Rasta would get for exist as he exists up until this point, when we now can say, boy, knowledge prevalent and how can just dash with this, you know. I don't think so. I believe the Bible shield Rasta, because since the book is so respected in this world, and Rasta could have validated themselves from it, that Rasta also align themselves with the values as put forward in the Bible. People see in Rasta, well, then the bad, because, okay, they might do for them their own way, but until subscribe to loving one another and all the basic principles.
Rasta read them Bible.
Yeah, well, another thing though, because of the fact that we able to can raise an argument from within the mythology of the Bible, right, for point the way to his majesty as divinity, whether them agree with our interpretation or not, them force to give out some respect, because there is a certain amount of logic and common sense to our interpretation. So I believe our alignment with the Bible really shelter are we considerably for be accepted, for be allowed for exist and try. Now I man say the Bible alone do it. I man believe when His Majesty come to Jamaica as well, and particularly for the Jamaica society, for Rasta in Jamaica, that he caused the society to move a little bit different with Rasta when they get to a certain amount of validation by His Majesty visit. I man think so. So I man figure, listen, particularly given that I come up in the West and we know none about Egypt when Rasta rise up. You know, we know so much about Egypt and all, and something about Osiris, and understand the spiritual system. You understand? So the Bible may have to be the way. For one thing, the king said that stand out to me in relation to the Bible is that he encouraged everybody for find truth for themselves in the Bible. And even in where I man deal with the Bible, and I man find my way to where I am at right now. I see no reason why nobody else can associate with the Bible and find them way. You check what I say. So the Bible, to me, it can be used. My advice would be for Rastafari, where the Bible use is concerned, get a metaphysical Bible dictionary to complement it and use it metaphysically. Use it that way. That's the most effective way to do it. Because when you do it metaphysically, it brings everything back to you and your conscious thought and differences, and show you what the Bible means in terms of your inner workings. And that gives you a clearer sight of your spiritual estate. You get one clearer meditation with that. As I man say, you know, you have someone that believe in, you know, mysticism and all them kind of thing. You know, one mystic experience is you having a spiritual experience, something profound happening to you within a moment. You understand? And that is always a very good boost for one's confidence and one's faith when one's a search for you to have these experiences, these mystical experiences. But what man really is striving for ultimately is to exist at a certain state of spiritual awareness consistently. Not having a mystical experience that bring you into some spiritual thought and then you bounce right back out of it until when such time as maybe you're doing ritual or somehow we bounce back on. But for you to live there more consistently than that. You know what I mean? Highly high.
Selassie, ja.
Rastafari.
Yes.
So,
Icern.
yeah.
Still I conclude.
Yeah, well, in close, as the king said, you know, just for get the king in on this year.
Yes, sir.
You see, we don't have to feel no way. There's no conflict in what we are doing with what the king have said about the Bible. Particularly given the fact that the king also endorses other religious tradition as being equally valid when he say that they all have a remarkable unity of spirit in their historic past and so forth. All are valid. Our voodoo valid for spiritual awareness. Our Orisha, them valid. They all valid. Rastafari, choose one. And let's get on with the spiritual thing. His Majesty is iconic figure that I line up behind. You seeing? He represent idea of the transcendent God. He's that supreme symbol in our life. And he's also who we align with politically in terms of his trust in the world for peace and, you know, a better world for mankind as a whole. You seeing? There's no conflict. Just have a good understanding of where you're dealing with Bible-wise. And if there's where you're comfortable, assume your comfort. I personally, I embrace African spiritual approaches, because the reason in the first place why I am at the place that I am at, was at, in terms of in a relation with the Bible, is because I too view the African spiritual way through the Christian lenses and saw it to be pagan and not necessarily the right way to go. I saw the Christian and Bible way is the right way to go. Well, since that is now removed and that is no longer a truth, I personally go via the African approach to spirituality. Know thyself. Highly high.
Alright. Well, yes, give thanks. You know, I ain't going to take too long to outro here. Give thanks to Ras Icern for, first of all, the presentation and, of course, the discussion, the dialogue that came after that. And give thanks, you know, for all those who have listened in. I know comments are flying as well. I'm sure, comments are flying, and because we intend to put this up premiere-wise, so comments are flying, as well as the online chat, I should say. And of course, I think the online chat will always be available for one to, you know, watch it even when you're watching the video repeatedly. So yeah, of course, we have some international works to take care of, so we're not even going to linger on the time. Just do give thanks for your presence with us. We will continue, because there are many aspects to this that I would like to see a little more come out, you know. This aspect was a different aspect. That's why I didn't really want to carry too far. Just to stay where it stayed. You know, and there are other levels of it that we surely would have to get into. And in the future, we intend to make this a bit more interactive. We have some events we have planned as well, where we can sift out this properly and more academically and reason on it emotionally too, and, you know, get it clear. So do give thanks, you know. Of course, you know, it takes some real eyes to realize the real eyes that are amongst us. And as I always say, if you know your Bible and you do not know your history, obviously, the knowledge of your Bible will become a mystery. Holy Emmanuel eyes, Selassie, Jah, Rastafari, blessed love.